Hi everyone. Good evening. Thank you for joining today's session. My name is Rashankar, the product manager for McAfee, well now known as Trellix, after the merger of McAfee and FireEye. So yes, today we are going to talk about the introduction of the XDR ecosystem of Trellix. And we have today Saurabh Patankar and Arvind Sharma joined in with us. So Saurabh Patankar is the channel and distribution manager, and Arvind Sharma, the advanced technology specialist. Today, we are going to, they are going to talk about the shift from McAfee to Trellix and give you a bit of a backstory on that, as well as the ecosystem of Trellix, the XDR ecosystem, as well as the products that are available and the updates that are in products. It's quite an exciting session. So without taking any further of your time, I would like to let the speakers take over and yes, give them the chance to let you know more about Trellix. So thank you. So Arvind and Saurabh, over to you.
Thank you, Rashankar. Thank you very much. First and foremost, I would like to thank the entire SAPL team or Ezoref team to organize this session for all the partners. And I just would like to update you that at the starting of the year, we are really thankful for SAPL because of that Helix launch which you did and we saw obviously we couldn't be the part of it. It was a very nice physical events. Thanks, Chetia, for that. And really, we are really proud of SAPL team. While we are in the continuation in that journey, I just would like to update you guys that now with the McAfee and FireEye merger, now there are two brands which are existing now. And as far as the identity is concerned, now it's very settled which we have. So as per the Gartner's architecture, as per the Gartner's framework of cybersecurity, we have created one Trellix which will be focusing on XDR vertical, and one is Sky High, with the brands we announced, the brand which we announced on 22nd of March, which will be focusing on SSE, which is SASE framework. So now we can say that there are two organizations with two brand identities we have. One is Trellix and one is Sky High, which will be catering to our customers, Steam's customers now. Obviously, will be having the power of two bigger organizations portfolio, which is McAfee and FireEye. We will be having a huge product portfolio to our customers to offer through you, obviously, and there is it's really great opportunity for all our partners to grow with us. We all know that since last 1.5 years, almost 2 years have been there. COVID, there was not much connects which were there, and we were really holding a lot of things. But now I think this is the time where we'll be studying a lot of series of things which have new with SAPL this year. And I think in the continuation of those, the same thing, this is I think we brought in Arvind, who is a subject matter specialist at this time, so that he can brief you all that, okay, what kind of conversations we are going to have down the line with the customers, what you need to know about us, what's going on at Trellix, and where we are heading towards. Stay tuned. We will see two organizations, and product unification will definitely is going to take time. So if you are expecting a single price list or single SKUs with McAfee and FireEye, just hold on. As of now, FireEye team is selling FireEye, McAfee team is continue to sell McAfee products, because obviously we are learning each other products and solutions, so that how we can go to customers and we can position them. Still, you have all inquiries, please bring it to us. We will ask right person to align it with you, and right stakeholder will carry that query with you and address that opportunity. Moreover, McAfee's or Trellix partner portal is the same as of now, the same URL. Do go to partner portal because it will remain the pit stop for us. Any training, any certification will be there. Any deal locking will be through partner portal itself. We are already branding logos and guidelines of Trellix are already published in the McAfee partner portal. We are already having our campaigns, email campaigns, 9 email campaigns, EDR, XDR, Cloud 65, all are there, which are still continuing there. That's all from my end. I will just now hand over to Che and Arvind to address you. Thank you very much.
Hi. Hello, everyone. I'm not going to take much time. As you all know, Rashenka has taken on the role of product manager for Trellix. And if there's any questions or anything related to the product or opportunities, you can get in touch with him. I'm not going to take much time. So I think we have Arvind, who's going to talk us through the journey, as Saurabh said, of the new XDR. And Saurabh, Arvind, over to you.
Thanks, Nitya. Let me share my screen to start with. Please let me know if you're able to see my screen.
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Thank you for your time today to discuss Trellix. Right, so a lot of things are happening around in the market around Trellix. So thanks for giving us an opportunity to discuss, introduce Trellix to you, share what our strategy is, what we're trying to do. Right. So my name is Arvind Sharma, and I'm the Enterprise Technology Specialist for the device security portfolio within Trellix. Right. So from a device security perspective, it includes endpoint, it includes EDR, XDR, and so on. So I handle those products across APAC today, and I'm based out of Delhi, India. So to start with, I want to share some statistics around Trellix, what Trellix is. Trellix have been founded in January this year, right? But we already have a lot of strengths with us, which includes our huge customer base. We still got those 40,000 plus customers that we've got from both McAfee and FireEye side, right? So this is a merger, typical merger, right? And you would have seen a lot of acquisitions and mergers and how their growth path and their strategy evolves. So in this cybersecurity space, a lot of acquisitions happen very frequently. Mergers are very rare, so we are the merger side of it, and I'll talk about why we've gone the merger way, and there's a reason for it, right? But this gives us a lot of strength. This gives us a lot of base to start with, right? So we still have those the customers that I said earlier already. We've got a huge a base of sensors which are present globally. So you've still got 1 billion plus sensors through McAfee and Trellix, McAfee and FireEye, existing install base, which empowers Trellix threat intelligence team and gives us capability to provide much more mature cybersecurity solutions. So that's what Trellix is, right? So just to step back, and probably in the beginning, when Saurabh was talking, the voice was a little muffled because probably network connectivity. So last year, STG planned to acquire McAfee right in the beginning of the year, and after a few months, they then planned to acquire FireEye, and in January this year is when they merged both of them to create Trellix. But yes, the announcement happened already, right? So in October, the announcement had already happened that the two organizations would merge and would create a new identity. So this is the new identity. But as Saurabh stated, we today, our GTM is same, right? So the McAfee and FireEye GTMs remain the same. So the way you know McAfee, the way you know FireEye, they remain the same this year. Why do we say that? Because in case of mergers and acquisitions, right, especially in cases of merger, the main focus is always people, right? And I always say that that's the highest priority. The highest priority are the employees, these 5,000 plus employees that we have, and how do we integrate them into a combined culture, right? So there are two different organizations who are merging. There would be obviously a cultural change that happens. How do we merge that? That is the first priority for any merger. We've already done that. That is already finished. In January, we finished that merger. The two organizations have come together. They're working together as Trellix. Now, obviously, the second priority is the technology, right? That's the reason we came into this merger. And when we planned for this merger, our prime focus was to be in the XDR market. is our ecosystem which helps us provide you a strong XDR solution. So we'll talk about that going forward. So in order to start with, what XDR is, I'm leveraging Gartner's Insight report that came in a couple of years back. In 2020, they came out with this report which had a conceptual architecture about XDR, and they basically divided XDR in 3 layers. The top layer being the sensors layer. So if you look at that, includes EDR, email, CASB, DLP, and so on. The middle layer is where the data analytics happens, right? So the data normalization, data lake, and correlation happens in the middle layer. And the bottom layer is where you have the outcomes of the analytics, which is either leverage that for some incident response or automation, or create a workflow, or create an API integration with your existing SecOps tools, right? So that's the architecture that Gartner referred to a couple of years back. And when we did this merger, right? So McAfee was already in certain places, and FireEye was in certain places when it comes to sensors, right? So we had on the McAfee side, there were EDR, there were CASB, there were DLP, and so on. Similarly, on the FireEye side, there was email, and IAM, and so on. So they had user identity behavior, access as well. So that is those. When we did this merger, right, we brought more sensors into this architecture. That's the main reason why this merger happened, so that we get more visibility and we're able to cover more threat vectors, by this merger. We could have done acquisitions, and acquisitions would have meant probably acquiring one new a threat vector visibility in every acquisition, or we go the merger way where we enhance both the technology from an XDR perspective. Also, there were some overlaps, right? So in FireEye and McAfee, look at, there were overlaps on the EDR and endpoint side, which is a very, very good thing. For those who are familiar with the FireEye side, in the from an EDR perspective, on the post forensic analysis, FireEye had a lot of strengths. Now we took that strength into our EDR going forward now, and that is how this merger would help us, right? But going back to what I was talking about, XDR. This is the main focus where Trellix wants to invest. Now, when we so earlier I was talking about the Gartner report that came in 2020, but in 2021, Gartner came out with another market report on XDR, which then defined 2 type of XDR solutions. The first was native XDR, which was predominantly OEM specific, right? So single vendor who has all the 3 layers, right? The layer of sensors, the layer of analytics, the layer of outcomes, all coming via one vendor is what they categorize as the native XDR vendors. And then they talk about strength of having a native XDR, right? Native XDR, you don't really need to do any integration. Everything is out of box. As long as you have the same EDR, same email security, same CASB, and same DLP, and so on. If you have the same from the same vendor, same OEM, then you don't really need to create any integrations, and everything flows very easily, right? So that is the native XDR that Gartner defined. And then in the same report, they talk about open XDR, where set of vendors which are focusing on the data analytics and the outcome layer rather than the sensors, right? And predominantly these are those vendors which are SIEM first, right? The vendors who are moving into XDR market, but they started with SIEM earlier. That's their growth map into an XDR vendor. So these were the 2 terminologies that came out in the 2021 report, which was published by Gartner for the XDR market guide. Within the same guide, they also divided the XDR architecture into 2 parts, which is the front end and the back end. Right? So in 2021, they defined front end being the sensors, and the back end being that analytical layer or the outcome layer that we were just talking about. Now, why am I sharing this? Is because a lot of time I get a question whether SIEM or endpoint protection or EDR, would that be replaced by XDR? The answer is no. Gartner doesn't say it'll replace it, right? Why? Because you need sensors. If you don't have sensors, you will not get the related telemetry information, right? So if you do not have endpoint protection, we do not have EDI, if you do not have DLP, if you do not have web gateway, and so on, how would you get the telemetry for that threat vector, right? So hence you would need the EDR, the endpoint protection solutions, and the DLP and so on. They will continue being there. How you run your SecOps would probably differ, right? So today you might have a SecOps team where the endpoint operation is different, where EDR operation is different, and so on. Probably you merge them together the moment you have an XDR as your main SecOps solution. So the way your SecOps runs would differ, once you have a complete XDR solution with you. But you would need the front end and you would need the back end to work together to give you a mature XDR solution. So that is where Trellix is focused on. And the outcomes that we are focusing on, and once we have this technology level merger finished, right? When we start creating and although I should probably change that word. We've already started creating those integrations. Yes, we've not started selling them, right? So once we start selling the combined XDR solution with McAfee and FireEye technologies together, these are the outcomes that we want to deliver, right? Why? Because we are in the data protection market with the DLP solution. We are in the cloud security with our SSE offering from the SkyHigh organization. We are there already in the endpoint and so on, and the network as well, right? So we are there in all the threat vectors, right? Although the SSE organization, which is SkyHigh, is now separate, but the integrations are already there, right? We don't have to create any new integration. Those native integrations still exist, right? Now, once we have those combined solutions together, this is what we want to provide you. We want to give you an option. Supposedly, your use case for an XDR is only workplace. Workplace means the end user who is using, who's your employee, and they're running some kind of, they're running business, their sales guys, legals, and all that. They will use their workplace for their daily, office work. You just want to cover that from an XDR perspective. You want to combine various threat vectors, the telemetry from various threat vectors, and you want to have a holistic view. We can deliver that, right? If you want to focus on the cloud security and have that as an XDR focus area, we can do that as well. Same goes for data protection because of the integration with DLP. Or you might be, in this case, on this slide, it talks about OT XDR, but basically it's in a closed network. What if part of your organization or you as an organization, do not want to, or your customer does not want to go on cloud, right? Even in those cases, they would like to have an XDR where they would like to have a combined view of all the threat vectors. We would provide that as an OT XDR use cases, right? So this is what we are trying to create via this merger. We want to create various use cases depending on what you want from an XDR. So XDR is, so when a lot of customers ask me what is XDR a product, the answer is no. Sorry. Is XDR a product? The answer is no. XDR is basically an architecture. In that architecture, what is the outcome that you want is dependent on the sensors that you're integrating, right? So if you have the cloud focus sensors integrating, it will be cloud security outcome based XDR. If it's a data related sensors which are integrating, it will be data protection XDR and so on. So it depends on what kind of sensor, that you are trying to integrate, right? So I hope this is clear. If you have any questions, please put your questions in the Q&A window. After this session, we would have a Q&A round, and I would try to answer as many questions as possible. So please feel free to drop your questions in the Q&A window. Okay. So in short, right? So what are we trying to create as Trellix, right? As I said today, the FireEye and McAfee both from a GTM perspective, from a go-to-market perspective, our approach remains same. Why? Because integrations takes time, right? In a typical merger of two technologies or two organizations, depending on how big those organizations is, the typical combined technologies start coming out in the industry after 12 to 18 months, depending on what technology and how vast is the scope of those technologies. That's the kind of typical average time. 12 to 18 months is where you look at where those mergers from a technology perspective start coming on the market. So this year we're looking at having the same GTM. But going forward, this is we want to continue with the same DNA, right? So if you've seen our DNA so far earlier, we've always have an adaptive architecture, right? We want to continue with that. We want to continue having an architecture which learns with each and every telemetry information that it's getting, right? So it's in real time, it's adapting based on the information it's getting from various sensors. Secondly, we want to be native, right? So native XDR is one which is of least effort. You don't really have to create any integrations, right? So those efforts are not required. So it's very, very seamless. But also you want to be open. Why? Because we also know that not all customers would have only Trellix solution. They might be leveraging some other solution. In that case, their expectation would be to have an open XDR. So we want to be both native as well as open. And finally, we want to embed our expertise. The expertise that we have from the intelligence perspective, we want to share that insight, share those actionable intelligence with our customers so that they can be proactive, right? And I'm going to show you a demo also. How do we provide that threat intelligence today so that you have something to take back to our customers today itself, and how it will be delivered in future. We will definitely keep in touch, and we will definitely share more information around that. But in my demo, I'll talk about how we share threat intelligence as of today, right? So these are our focused products, right? The XDR cloud, which includes both McAfee and the FireEye components, right? If you know from a FireEye perspective, there are Helix, there are XDR, the EDR solution, CloudVisory from the CNAP perspective, email security, DoD is their cloud-based sandboxing solution, right? Detection on demand. And on the core side, core is where it's an on-prem portfolio, and we've got various solutions from both the sides as well. So we would continue providing support and services and solutions for both SaaS-based customers, right, as well as the on-prem customers, because we know we today also have a lot of on-prem customers. A lot of our customers do not want to go on cloud, and we are catering to those customers, right? So we will continue focusing on both of them. That's another message that I want to share today. And as I said, right, this is the overall architecture. Once we have all the sensors sharing our information to a central data lake where the automation and analytics can happen, we want to integrate that with our threat labs, right? So the Trellix threat labs would share our services on top of that platform where the analytics is happening, so that the outcome is very, very proactive, right? So this is what we are trying to create with the merger of two technologies. So I wanted to take your time today to share this information. I would obviously switch on to the demo right now to share how we deliver these two solutions together today, both on the McAfee and the FireEye side. I would focus on the endpoint use case and endpoint and threat intelligence use case, but obviously we can have use cases around on data or collaboration, applications, cloud, and so on, as I was talking about earlier. But because of time today, my focus will be on endpoint and threat intelligence. So let me switch to the demo. But as I said, if you have any questions, please put in the Q&A window, and I will try to answer all of them. Let me now share you a demo that I want to walk through. So I hope you're able to see my my screen now. Okay. So as I said, right. So today, if our customer is asking for XDR, we can provide them an XDR solution, right? So FireEye has an Helix-based XDR capability, so we can integrate that with our McAfee components as well as the FireEye components, which are on the endpoint, data protection, cloud, and so on. So those can integrate today itself, right? And but that's not a native integration, right? That's what I was talking about earlier. The native integration would happen with time and over time. So from a customer perspective, it really will not make a lot of difference. Why? Because in the world of cloud, because our Helix is a SaaS-based service, right? In the world of cloud, in the world of SaaS-based solutions, every new capability is an upsell, right? So whatever they're procuring today will continue to be there tomorrow. Every new capability that we would create going forward would either be part of the same offering that they have, or would be an upsell. So either ways, the customer will not get impacted, right? So whatever POC you do today, whatever solutions that you sell today, those solutions remain same, right? Every new capability that we're creating would either be part of the offering that they already have, or would even be an upsell depending on what that capability is. So today, our capability from an XDR perspective already exists, which is an open XDR-based integration with the McAfee components and the FireEye components. And obviously, if customer has their own SecOps solution, which could be a threat intelligence platform like ThreatQ or Threat Connect or so on, or any SOAR-based solution, we already have those integrations as of today, right? So we don't have to wait for an XDR. This XDR exists today, right? So now I want to start the demo from the Envision Insight, which is part of our Trellix EPO, right? So Envision Insight is a threat intelligence-based solution. So if today, from a SecOps perspective, if my customer wants to look at threat intelligence and consume threat intelligence, and you help triage a particular threat using that threat intelligence, that's what I want to showcase to begin with. And then I will move on to how, if we integrate this information with Helix, how does that look like, right? So let me start with the Envision Insights, which is part of Trellix EPO. So in this case, if you look here, right now these threats are sorted by last detected, right? So based on detection. Right on the top, we see this APT35 based Log4j based exploit. Now, we look here at the indicators, which are nothing but IOCs. So we see that 2 IOCs are red in color and 2 are blue. The ones which are red means that they have been detected within the customer's infrastructure, right? So these are the detections for that customer. And if you look at the detections, we saw that there are 10 detections, which are there spread over 2 devices. And from an impact perspective, it is a high aggression impact, right? So this is something serious. So we can click on view details and look at further details of this particular campaign. We can look at this campaign from a MITRE perspective, right? So we can try to understand from which MITRE tactics and techniques are observed within this campaign, which is the Log4j related vulnerability. So we see that within this campaign, we can see there are exploits at PowerShell, which is being run. From a discovery perspective as well, we see a lot of registry queries, system information. There's a registry modification. From a collection perspective, we see that there's screen capture. There's a command and control based techniques also being used, and there's a data exfiltration. So I see the overall techniques and techniques. We can also click on these and understand the exact observable of that particular technique. So technique is very detailed, right? There's a lot of ways in which that technique might be used, but to be very, very specific to a particular campaign, you can just click on this and see what are the observables of the particular tactic or technique that has been used within that particular campaign, right? And then we can move on to the IOCs for that campaign and see what all IOCs are part of that campaign itself, right? Which are domains, IP addresses, and so on. Or we can click on connection, see the connection-based diagram in our Envision Insight to quickly understand how this detection was seen within the customer organization. So if I look at this, and this is a summary view, right? It quickly shows me that within this EPO there are 2 clients, the client 0 and port client 1, which are in scope of this particular campaign. And these are the 2 files through which we saw an association to a particular campaign, right? So I quickly got an overview of the detection, and we will go into the details of these detections going forward, right? So now if I go back to the customer's environment and click on impacted devices, I can see these 2 devices which are impacted. So I can click on this and see all the detections for that particular device. So if I click on this, I can see there are all the detections are green in color, which means that they are resolved, right? So they were stopped. So I can click on that and look at each and every detection. So if I click on this process trace, I can also look at the process trace of that detection as well. Now, when I see the process trace, and I can zoom it a little, I can see that there are the first file through which the detection was done is this Chrome_setup. And this Chrome_setup has then started two processes, and these processes then ran curl.exe and certutil.exe. Now, through curl.exe, if I look here, then there are a couple of executions done, and those operations were either on the same machine or to another IP address, which is 10.10.0.25, which is an internal IP address. Right, so there is a little movement also which is detected in this observation, right? So I can see that IP address over here, and we will keep a note of this IP address, and we'll use this IP address going forward. And through certutil, I can see all the files which are downloaded, and I can see that there's a file called nothing to worry about, which has got downloaded. So I see through curl command the little movement that happened, and also certutil, I could see that there's some files which have got downloaded on this endpoint, and we can quickly keep a note of these two artifacts that we want that quickly observe, the IP address and that file. Now, if you look at the sequential view of the same detection, right, and this is only through threat intelligence, right? This data is only from endpoint, and on that endpoint we are doing correlation with the threat intelligence, right? So still the threat vector that we right now focus is only endpoint and not others like on the network level or so on. So right now this is only threat intelligence. Same, we're looking at those same detections here. There's a curl command executed, certutil. Through certutil, there's a process created over here, and through this IP address, there's a particular file which has got downloaded, and so on. If I look at these files, these are those same files that we were talking about earlier, hello.hello1.exe, and I see that nothing to worry about is also downloaded. Now, important notice over here is this detection is there's nothing to worry about has been detected at the very end of this particular observation, which means that these files are dormant files right now. These files can also create some more observation. They can also infect the machine even more. Right now, these files have only got downloaded. It has not created any new execution. So these are dormant files right now, need to be looked at immediately, right? So this is how we could see all the threat and all the information just using threat intelligence and the endpoint as a threat vector. Now, if you move forward back to the insights, now thing is we're looking. Earlier we were looking on the endpoint, but this insights also integrates with the IP assumptions. We can get a level visibility into this threat intelligence. This is over a network threat vector. So now let's go to this network level threat vector and let's see what are the observables over here. Again, there's a detection over here, and if you see this detection, this little movement, and which is between the two internal IP address 10.0.70.198 and 10.10.0.25, right? So these are two internal IP addresses on which we observed some detection, right? So again, we can click on view details, go back to that particular detection in that environment. So click on your environment, go to that detection. This is red in color. So this is red in color, which means that this was not stopped, right? Probably because it's an internal traffic and we've not put this in block mode. We've just put it in the observe mode. That's the reason it was not blocked, but we are getting a detection for that particular thread. IP address, we get the destination IP address, and so now we've got visibility beyond endpoint. So now we've got a visibility of network level as well, because both IPS and endpoint are sharing their telemetry data to our threat intelligence for this correlation, right? So this was only on the inside. So if we have an existing McAfee customer, they can leverage our XDR integration on the emission insight, which at a threat intelligence platform level, and do this correlation just using endpoint suite itself. They don't need to procure anything else. Just the endpoint suite that we have, what we internally call as MV6, right? Just the endpoint suite from an MV6 perspective, which includes protection, detection, and this threat intelligence, that they get this capability. So now let's look at if you move beyond endpoint, and these sources are integrated with Helix, which is on the from a FireEye side is the XDR solution or a SOAR solution, right? So now if we integrate with Helix over here, we see this just like earlier, we were looking at different threats, events, right? So it is spread across multiple days, right? So we can quickly see that information. Also, we can see the source, destination, and so on. I can filter information on what are the focus areas. I can probably start my investigation from a particular endpoint. So in this case, I'm starting with client 0 because that was the scope of the detections, and I see a lot of data related to that particular threat as well. So if we click on this, I can see that from an endpoint security solution, I've got multiple sources or artifacts for that particular threat, right? So in this case, so there are the endpoint and so on. I can click on threat intel and also see what are the techniques or tactics observed for this particular event, right? So there are 4 tactics which we or 4 out of 14 tactics that have been observed for this particular event. Coming back to these sources, I can click on those machines or users and see the related data as well, right? Like for example, over here, I can see a detection of that Chrome setup on the pod client 1. Similarly, we can see the same kind of detection on client 0, right? So same data that we saw on the inside side, now we can see on the Helix side, right? So those integrations already exist. That cert util that we were talking about earlier, we can see that. Now something interesting over here, we can see that file, there's nothing to worry about, which is downloaded. We can also see the URL from where that file has got downloaded. That's again on pod client 1 and client 0. This one is on client 0 and so on. Right. Moving on, we can also look at right. So this is again, this is the on the exploit side. We saw that this is the file which has got downloaded. And these are the alerts. And if you look at step back. Sorry. If I look at the artifacts here, I forwarded a little bit. If we look at the artifacts here, we see one of the artifacts which is WinWord, right? So this is interesting. This gives me an information that there was a Word document which was opened. If I click on this, I can quickly see which that Word document was, which is if I click on this particular event, here it shows me this is on client 0. I click on this event, it shows me quickly that this is that document which was opened using WinWord. So now I see that these are interesting observations which I should focus on. And this document right now I saw on the client 0 machine, right? Similarly, I can look at other data as well. Here also, if you see the cert util command, right, I can see what was the URL from which the file got downloaded and so on. And so similar data coming here on the Helix side from an XDR perspective, right? The other thing that Helix provides us is the ability to look at different assets and look at the threats from an asset perspective. Over here, we can see all those assets like the users and machines. Now, these assets discovery has been done via the integration with mVision EPO, which is the Trellix EPO. And we can also add users. Now, these users, if you see here, the data source is Azure. So from Azure, we can add users and we can cater them if there are high value assets, so that in case if there are high value assets and we see some threats related to that, then that would obviously be taken as a higher priority. And if you look at on the left hand side, we can see number of alerts for each and every asset. So we can create prioritization of different alerts depending on the risk factor that we add to particular assets as well. So this is another capability that we can add onto on Helix. We can export this information if we want to leverage it later on from a investigation perspective, right? The other thing we were talking about earlier was looking at the same information from the lateral movement perspective. So this is the 10.10.025 IP address. If you search based on that, again, there are multiple information on this. If you click on that, again, we get information of where a particular file has got downloaded. Now, this is very interesting, right? If you see here, the file which has got downloaded is a .elf file, which means it's a Linux machine, right? So if it's a Linux machine, then there's a possibility that we should go ahead and block it. And if you see here, the action taken, this action was taken via the on-access scan, and the resultant was handled, right? So our endpoint security solution on the endpoint had handled this particular threat. It was .elf file which got downloaded on this particular machine, right? The other things that we can do using Helix is obviously run our playbooks. One of the playbook would be to probably create a ticket. In this case, we try to open a ticket with integration with ServiceNow, right? So if you see here, this playbook had run and this ticket has already been opened. So we can create integrations from an IR perspective as well, right? Another thing that we can do on Helix is run our own proactive search and do our own investigation. So in this case, we were interested in investigation for a particular endpoint to start with, which is 10.00.25. I can see 5 events there. One of them is this 7ZA, which is the usually a process seen with data exfiltration for encrypting the data and sending it across. So this is very, very interesting event that we are seeing over here. We can, by default, it shows real-time event, which is last 5 seconds or so. We can increase or decrease this particular time window, so we can increase that to 20 minutes, and run the same query for that particular IP address. And if we run that query, we can see that now the number of events is much higher. We can investigate it right now, or we can save that for future investigation purposes. So we can save a particular query and run an investigation later. The other thing that we can do, so previously we've already seen how to create different queries, create different search from a proactive investigation perspective. Now that investigation probably is done, we can do remediation. So in order to remediate, we can initiate a remediation connection to a particular endpoint. In this case, we're doing it to pod client 1. Once we initiate this connection and it gets established over here, right, we can run a query and see if this file, nothing to worry about, is still there on that machine. So in this query, once it runs, we can see right on the bottom that this file already does still exist. We can run commands over here if you want to do a remediation, or we can run scripts. So we can put those scripts over here and run those scripts. Or in this case, what we're trying to do is we want to capture that file and we want to investigate that file even further. So what we do trying to do over here is get the path of the file where the file is downloaded, and then here are the list of our out-of-box remediation actions that we can take. What we're trying to do is capture that particular file. So let's go to file, right? Put that path over here. Put your comments, so that you are trying to capture the file for further investigation, right? For the analysis, you can acquire it. Once that acquisition is done, depending on the size of the file, that file would come over here. So here, this is the acquisition page on which shows that we've already acquired some 26 odd files, and then you can go to this place and download that file, right? So this shows the XDR integration, which is already available as of today, right? So you can today use both FireEye and McAfee solutions and provide these capabilities from an end-to-end solution. So if we saw, gathering telemetry from endpoint or network and so on, doing a investigation using threat intelligence, doing investigation on Helix, running proactive investigation using various kind of searches, and at the end, you've seen the possible remediation action that you can take. So this XDR solution is available today. Obviously, as I said earlier, I'm just repeating myself, that going forward, we want to create the integration between these components natively. Hence, you would not need a lot of integration efforts. That's the aim going forward, and we want to make it much more seamlessly. If you see right now, there are 3 different consoles that we have to switch between, but that's why, because there's a McAfee based console and there's a FireEye based console. We want to bring them together and have a unified console so that it becomes much, much easier. But from an outcome perspective, we have the outcomes that we can provide to our customers as of today. So this is what I wanted to showcase. I hope this gives you some level of visibility around our capability as of today. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat window, and I would try to answer all of them. And at this point of time, I would probably hand it over back to Saurabh so that he can update you on the channel side, right? What all update we have. So Saurabh, back to you.
Yeah, thank you, Arvind. Thanks a lot. So from the channel perspective, I think as of now, I told you to all of you that our status quo will remain the same as of now. So there is no change in the GTM. We will continue to offer our customers our entire product portfolio. The only that the representation will change if you come across with any opportunity which will be from the FireEye product portfolio also. We will connect you to the right person in there, and some that particular stakeholder will take that opportunity ahead. I mentioned that partner portal remain our key pit stop, wherein you can find all that information. We will be updating a lot of information on the partner portal so that you are updated that what's coming in the new. So that is the most important thing, and that's it from my end. Anything else from I just hand over to Chetia or as a TL team if we have something more, and if we have any Q&A, so I think we can just go through it. In fact, even if I don't see any questions, I think Rashmika or Amanda can confirm that you can mail across if you have any query to SMT team, and then they can forward us to us. I'm sure there will be a lot of questions in your mind as of now, because obviously Arvind really briefed actually the overall architecture of XDR, but it will be not. You will be having a lot of questions on that front. So you can mail across if you have any on questions on those front, and then we can revert you over the mail.
I would probably, take, there's one question that always, get asked today, which is if there is an XDR opportunity, what will be the bill of material, right? So our bill of material, if you want to position our XDR capability today to our customer, depending on whether the customer is looking for endpoint, threat vector, or cloud, or so on, we would have those sensors. So in case it was from an endpoint, we would probably say NV6 from our side, or the Sky High CASB, depending on what they're looking for from integration perspective. But from an XDR platform, we'll just add one more line item, which is on the FireEye side, which is the XDR bill of material. So that's how we would create that solution today and provide to our customers. So if you have those opportunities coming to you, please feel free to reach out to us, and we can help you with bill of material solutioning and so on.
Super. Thanks, Arvind. Also, does anyone have any questions so far?
I think, Amanda, there is no questions as of now. So maybe we can conclude this session. And moreover, I just also want to ask my all the partners over here that please stay safe, stay secure, and definitely we will be looking forward for a good timings where we will be having a lot of opportunities from your end, and we will resume the business as the way it was.
Super. So I'll get in touch with each and everyone who has joined in today and make sure that to see what their thoughts are and so far on Trellix, and what their thoughts are, and what questions they may have, and how we can help them help with their business. So thank you so much, Arvind. Thank you so much, Saurabh. And I will definitely be in touch with you all as well. Thank you.
Thanks everyone for giving us your time. Have a very good day. Stay safe.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much
everyone.
for joining in today.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all the attendees, much appreciated, and thank you Arvind, Saurabh, and everyone who's part of this session. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Thanks,
Bye.
Thank you.